Welcome to this explainer. I'm Dr. Ken, and today we're literally going to listen to the sound of light. Imagine a futuristic lab where laser beams are striking gases, liquids, and solid materials. We're embarking on the incredible journey of a photon, diving deep into the magic of photoacoustic spectroscopy, or PAS. You'll see light energy being absorbed by glowing molecules, followed by the generation of these tiny, rhythmic pressure waves. It's a world where optics and acoustics collide in the most beautiful way.
And you know what's crazy? The whole thing started completely by accident. Way back in 1880, Alexander Graham Bell was actually working on his photophone, which was this wild device meant to transmit sound on a beam of light. But he noticed something strange. When he exposed certain materials to a beam of sunlight and then rapidly interrupted that light with a rotating slotted disc, the materials literally started making an audible sound. He had unknowingly stumbled upon the photoacoustic effect. He was translating modulated light directly into sound.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the photoacoustic effect itself, then look at the instrumentation and setup. After that, we'll dive into applications in the real world, weigh the advantages and limitations, and finally peek into the future of detection. Let's get right to it.
The photoacoustic effect.
So how does this actually work? The journey begins when target molecules absorb pulsing or modulated laser light. This pumps up their internal vibrational states, but instead of just glowing or re-emitting that light, they undergo what we call non-radiative relaxation. Basically, that absorbed energy quickly converts into localized heat. This sudden little temperature bump forces the material to rapidly expand, which generates a rippling periodic pressure wave. And guess what? That pressure wave is our acoustic signal. We're essentially making molecules pop with heat so we can hear them.
Now, even though Bell discovered this back in the 1880s, scientists were kind of stuck. They couldn't actually extract meaningful chemical data from it for nearly a century. It just didn't make mathematical sense yet. But then, in the 1970s, Alan Rosenwag and A. Gershow introduced their groundbreaking model. This framework finally provided the precise thermodynamic wave equations we needed to quantitatively interpret these incredibly tiny pressure fluctuations. It was an absolute game-changer that launched photoacoustic spectroscopy into the analytical powerhouse we know today.
Moving on to Section 2, Instrumentation and Setup.
Okay, so how do we capture a sound wave that is so microscopic it comes from a single molecule? In a typical high-tech setup, a modulated laser source fires directly at our sample, let's say a piece of biological tissue. The tissue absorbs the light and speaks by generating that acoustic signal. But here's the catch. That initial signal is incredibly faint, a literal whisper. So it passes into a photoacoustic resonator to be amplified. Then, ultrasensitive microphones or piezoelectric transducers grab that wave, feed it through a lock-in amplifier to strip out all the messy background noise, and finally, a computer spits out a clean digital spectrum.
The real hero here is that resonator chamber sitting in the middle of the setup. Because those initial sounds are so weak, we absolutely have to trap them. We precisely match the pulsing rhythm of our laser to the chamber's natural acoustic modes, its eigenfrequencies. Think of it exactly like pushing someone on a swing. If you push at the exact right moment, they go higher and higher. By hitting that natural resonance, we naturally and massively amplify the sound wave so our instruments can actually detect it.
To really visualize this, look at a standard T-type resonator cell. We can run these beautiful glowing 3D heat map simulations that show the acoustic modes literally dancing inside the chamber. Those intense red and blue zones? That's showing you the extreme highs and lows of the pressure waves building up. By cleverly designing the geometry of these chambers, analytical chemists can boost the signal strength exponentially. It's how we achieve that mind-blowing ultra-trace detection.
Section 3, Applications in the Real World. Let's step out of the lab for a second. Depending on the phase of matter you're dealing with, PAS is astonishingly versatile. For gases, we're talking about sniffing out atmospheric pollutants down to parts per billion, or even parts per trillion. In liquids and soft tissues, we can do deep tissue imaging or track things like blood glucose. And for solid states, researchers can evaluate intact human bones or analyze completely opaque materials without using any destructive chemical processing. You just shine a light and listen.
This has led to some absolutely incredible medical breakthroughs. Take imaging deep through human skin, for example. In pure optical imaging, light gets severely scattered and degraded by tissue the deeper you go. It gets blurry fast. But photoacoustics is the perfect workaround. We send light in, but we let sound come out. Ultrasound waves scatter way less than light waves do, so by listening to those photoacoustic signals, we can peer deep through the epidermis and dermis to track blood glucose diffusion entirely non-invasively. Literally, no needles required. How cool is that?
And the applications scale up massively. On environmental and military fronts, the sheer sensitivity of laser photoacoustic spectroscopy is a literal lifesaver. We can deploy it to safely and continuously listen for invisible threats at parts per trillion levels. Whether it's sniffing out ozone-depleting gases high up in the stratosphere or continuously monitoring for highly toxic nerve agents and explosives, this tech is out there sensing the invisible in real time.
Section 4. Advantages and limitations.
Now, as with any advanced analytical technique, we need to be objective about its boundaries. The advantages, for sure, are staggering. You get exceptional ultra-trace sensitivity. You get high spatial resolution in deep tissues, and you achieve all of this non-destructively using safe, non-ionizing radiation. But there's always a catch, right? The limitations really come down to the hardware. These instruments are incredibly complex. Because we're literally measuring microscopic sounds, the system is hypersensitive to any ambient acoustic noise in the room. That means you need massive vibration isolation and incredibly strict, meticulous calibration to get reliable data.
And finally, Section 5, the future of detection. Where does this synthesis of optics and acoustics take us next? Well, the tech is evolving at breakneck speed. We've gone from Bell spinning slotted disks in the sun to utilizing futuristic continuous wave mid-infrared lasers. Miniaturization is huge right now too. We're shrinking those massive, bulky laboratory setups down to portable field sensors using sleek silicon tech and 3D printed resonations. And in biomedicine, we are right on the edge of real-time in vivo molecular imaging. Imagine literally watching gene expression or blood perfusion happen live inside a patient.
As an analytical chemist, it's just thrilling to watch this field explode. I really hope this explainer illuminated how photoacoustic spectroscopy transforms absorbed light into measurable sound, making it one of the absolute most powerful techniques for advanced chemical analysis today. I want to leave you with this thought to chew on. If we can already hear the faint acoustic whispers of a single glucose molecule, or a toxic gas floating around at parts per trillion, what other invisible chemical mysteries will we learn to listen to next? Keep wondering, and I'll catch you in the next one.